folks, and we're back with another edition of Metal Eardrum Bleeding, Freedom Loving podcast called the Missouri Liberty Report. Thanks to all of you who download, listen, watch the live stream. Greatly appreciate each and every one of you, as I say every week, and I do mean it. I appreciate each and every one of you that, however you get this podcast, however you listen in. So, the election results are in, and needless to say, what a bummer, right? What a bummer for most of them. In our area here, the Owensville area, Senate District 26, we are fortunate enough to have Ben Brown as our new state senator, and I think that is a very good thing. I think that is an excellent thing. And I think we're going to have an ally for those of us who are trying to push freedom-loving legislation and kill bad legislation. I believe that Ben Brown's experience in working with Missouri First is going to be a good thing. But some of the other election results, like Lincoln Huff and Dean Plocker, suck. Okay. Also, Catherine and Robert, unfortunately, did not win their elections. And I'm trying to be nice on this podcast because I believe that most of my listeners are truly freedom-loving people. They, I would hope, for the most part, don't go around re-electing rhinos and all of that kind of thing. I would hope that they're have more common sense and use logic more and vote with their brain and truth instead of emotion. But we see it all the time. I mean, it's not just in the state; it's at the national level. It's in multiple states. We see people voting with their emotions. John Fetterman. Apparently, look, I don't know. I guess he won. If that doesn't tell you that emotion or party-based votes are what happens most of the time, I mean, it's just obvious. It's obvious. Oh, they don't have an R behind their name. I'm not voting for them. They don't have a D behind their name. I'm not voting for them. This emotion-based or party favoritism for the next 2 years up until the presidential election. After that, some of these elections here in the state of Missouri and across the country, things aren't going to change. And you can't expect them to change when you vote the way that these people do, purely based on emotion. Based on it, or voting based on what the media tells you or what the politician tells you. And not being able to lay out pros and cons of why you wouldn't want said person. Fetterman is one of these people. He had a stroke. I'm not making fun of him because he had a stroke. That's a serious thing. Mentally he is not clear. And he wins an election. Now, I'm supposed to, I guess, have all kinds of faith. And, I'm supposed to be, I guess people want me to be like them and just have faith because he's a Democrat means he's going to, he's going to save democracy. That got really tiring. Let's just, putting it bluntly, those words got very tiring. It was, if you want to save democracy, vote blue. Or, let's get a red wave going. Well, I could paint my hand red and do a red wave, and it's going to do the same thing. Actually, it'll be less damaging than the red wave that's coming out of D.C. or the states, to be perfectly honest. It's going to be way less damaging to freedom if I just paint my hand red and wave it around in the air as a red wave, and it's going to be way less. There's going to be way less risk to your freedom and liberty if we all would just paint our hands red and just wave them around and go, "Here's your red wave." Because I would probably just put one finger up in the air and go, "There's your, you're number one." Yeah, Mad Mom says constitutional republic. Sorry, auto trigger when I hear democracy. Yeah, and again, I believe most of my listeners understand. Supposed to be a constitutional republic, not a democracy, and it is irritating to hear it. But this is what the lame brains and the influencers on social media, and people like Robert Reich and Rob Reiner and a lot of these other idiots getting on and spouting their stupidity, talking about how we have to save democracy. And that just got really old. A lot of things before the election from Robert Reich III. We have to vote blue and save democracy, and also inflation is not caused by government spending. It is only caused by corporate greed. Again, he's pushing lies to influence the way people vote, depending on those people not knowing their facts. So when I see those tweets, I make fun of him. I list the faults in his argument. Now, do people really... I know that most people look at that and go, "Oh, he doesn't know. He's not an economist like Robert Reich is." I don't care. Okay? The lies irritate me. The falsehoods irritate me. Okay? So I get a little angry when I hear all that stupid coming out of their mouths, because they know they're lying. Well, I think some of them do. Some of them believe it. But some of them know they're lying. But God, to get in the good graces of their government overlords, they will spout the same stupid nonsense every freaking day. They will spout this stupidity. And then the sad part is there's a whole lot of people clapping for them. That's the saddest part. The sad part is not what the person is saying. It's the amount of people that go, "Yes, right on. You tell them." Tell them what? Tell me. What are you telling me? Are you telling me that you're either A, ignorant of the facts, or B, that you're a stone cold liar? But nothing about you says that I should take your words and go, "Okay, that sounds good." Or, "Hey, you're right. He's right on this." I don't see those things when I'm looking at the words that they type out. I mean, maybe Twitter should just be able to, put something in the software where I can just literally just rubber stamp stupid across it. So when people see it, everything's blocked out with stupid or lies or whatever. It would be fun because those people would get supremely triggered by my use of the stupid stamp. I know you always used to hear it. You get the good house keeping seal of approval, while you get the John Williams stamp of stupid when you spout your lies. So anyway, yes, the elections didn't go well. 2 of our amendments passed. Amendment 5, actually, I think 3, actually, I'm sorry. The government control, the board controlling the police budget for Kansas City, Missouri, that passed. Amendment 5 on the state, the Missouri National Guard, that one passed. And then worst of all, Amendment 3 passed. That one makes me want to have an involuntary personal protein spill all over my shoes. And when I say that, I mean vomit. I want to throw up on my own shoes. And I got brand new work shoes, so I really don't want to throw up in them. But it made me sick to my stomach. Now this shouldn't be unexpected because there were so many people out there who were just so desperate to get weed legalized without, again, using logic, looking at the facts, digging into things. Just saw, ooh, legal weed, ooh, and blah. My wife, the next day, somebody she works with was like, "Oh, my significant other's like super happy," and Shona's like, "That's a lie." She's like, "We get to do this." She's like, "That's a lie." What about this? That's a lie. And then I guess my daughter had somebody come up to her at work, and she's like, "You didn't look into that very well." And he's reading from the site, and she, excuse me, she's like, you don't know all the background stuff. That's not all guaranteed. She's like, "Oh, we're gonna have 400 new dispensaries," and my wife's like, "No, you're not. We're gonna have this." "No, you're not." And so both of them told the people that came to them and said, "You give it about a year, and you're going to see how bad things are screwed up." So I have been in contact with Representative Hicks. I haven't got an answer back about helping him in any way that I can and see if he's going to be crafting new legislation to work around and get rid of some of the damage that Amendment 3 did. That's what we're hoping for. And I told I left it. I sent him a message, said, "Hey, whatever you need, I will help you with. I will get the word out. The Missouri Freedom Initiative will be happy to help out and try to right these wrongs." But Amendment 3 is really the one that a lot of us did not want to see go through. But a lot of people that were fighting against it, even admitted that it looked like it was going to pass strictly because so many people were tired of waiting on spineless legislators to do their job because it had been a long fight and they didn't seem to be getting anywhere. And so then in turn voted for this shoddy amendment. Now, Ben Brown has stated that he wants to start working immediately on righting the wrongs that happened on Election Day, and one of that is Amendment 3. So he's making, John Grady says, some light commitments for the Senate. And any help that we can get right now is really important. We've got to somehow curtail this. Because, again, as I stated so many times before the election, and what John Grady kind of pointed out to me because I didn't think of it this way, so I have to give him the credit, is that the people voted for the Constitution to limit them when the Constitution is only to limit the government, size, scope, power of government. The Constitution was literally turned against the people. Now, somebody on Twitter put up something about A3, and I said, yeah, the Constitution is supposed to limit the government and not the people. And he's like, "Oh, another Anon account." And I'm like, "Are you saying I'm QAnon? Because if you are, you're a freaking retard. You know nothing about me. I'm not a QAnon. I'm not some Trump lover. You idiot. I'm strictly stating facts. The Constitution of any state or the federal is not supposed to put limits on the people. Plain and simple. But some people just wanted their legal weed so bad that they will literally, I think I did say that, some people, it appears that some people on election day screamed out, "Tread harder, Daddy," but first, put on these golf shoes first. And then tread all over me. Make me your favorite pincushion. I mean, I literally I think I said something to that fact the next day. Because that's the way I feel. I feel that there were a lot of people who decided that they still wanted, they like to be, they let's just put it in the way it should be put. They like being tread on. They love their overlords. They love the fact that government looks out for them. They haven't figured out yet that that is not a good idea. It's not a good idea at all for the government to look out for you, to take care of you. Look, again, I'm going to bring up COVID for the 14,000th time. Look at COVID. You want these people who picked who were essential and non essential. That's the people that you want in charge. Those are the people that you trust. Now, some people did agree with that. The fear porn worked. But a lot of people figured out how crap their government was. And a lot of people forgot. A lot of people forgot about the people who ruined the livelihoods of business owners, who caused a spike in depression, suicides, overdoses, cases of domestic violence. All these things went up. Well, they didn't know. You're telling me you ruin people's lives and you don't think there's going to be consequences to this? I know that they asked me to forgive and forget because they just didn't know. And I know that even the good Lord says you're supposed to forgive. But this one, I can't. I cannot let this one go. I cannot forgive and forget. It is, yeah. It is just. I listen. I promised myself that I would not get on here and scream and yell and name call because most of the people that are listening to this are not this way. But there's a whole lot of people, and there might be some that listen that just don't get it. And I'm not going to let that affect me to where I'm like, screw it, I'm not doing this podcast anymore. But it does make me wonder how their brains work. If their synapses are firing correctly, or if there's just a lot of noise in the background and they can't concentrate. Then the state auditor, what is it, Fitzpatrick, he won. And the Libertarian Party did actually put up the only CPA to run as state auditor. But Fitzpatrick just had that one in the bag. He blew away the competition, the other nominees. It's just, I'm just disappointed. That's all, folks. I'm supremely disappointed. John Grady says only one CPA on the ballot. Granted, he only got 2% of the vote. Again, people don't use logic. They just go, oh, well, that's a Republican, and I want the Democrat in there. Don't look at the third name. It's just like it's literally hidden from their sight. Now, listen, this is not. I do not want to get on here and say that just because someone is a libertarian, you should vote for them automatically. I don't feel that way about any person of any party. They have to prove that they know and really actually care about what freedom and liberty are. I do not want to get on here and go, if you don't vote for libertarians, what's wrong with you? Because there are a lot of people who say they're libertarian. I'm just saying, I don't buy it sometimes. And again, the heads, the people that chaired the National Party before the Mises Caucus took over, I'd say several of those were not libertarian. If they were, they're left-leaning libertarians. And I'm sorry, I don't have any use for a left-leaning libertarian because of the fact that, again, when the Mises Caucus came in and they were making statements about how they were racist or homophobes, or they used the same language that the left uses all the time in their attacks against the people who don't, ideologically line up with them. And I'm sorry, but if you're a libertarian and that's your best response to someone who doesn't agree with you, then you're useless. It's useless. I don't want to hear from you. I would just assume you just stay home and do whatever it is that you do. Um, and you can say all you want, but I really would not want them chairing the Libertarian Party of a state or at the national level. Because I think if the Libertarians are going to be taken seriously, those people have to be shown the door, and they got shown the door. Now, it's still, I don't put I don't put 100% faith in the party. Now, the candidates, that's who I look at, not the party, the candidates. Because sometimes you'll actually have a better conservative Republican candidate than some libertarians. That's not always the case. Most of the time it's not. But sometimes you do get those. So I'm looking at the candidate. If I'm going to donate to a political fund, it's going to be directly to the candidate, not to the party. Because I don't think the parties spend the money well sometimes. And if I want someone to get more radio ads or more ads in newspapers or whatever, they know exactly how that money needs to be used, and I would rather give directly to them. So, yeah. And, that's just my take, folks. I do not beholden myself to a political party. No matter how much I think that one party is better than the other, for the most part, I still don't go, well, I'm just going to dump a bunch of money into the party. No, I'm not going to. Give me a good candidate in my area or even in a state somewhere, and I can get behind them. I will give them money. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers Jacob Turner, who had run for U.S. House of Representatives and lost in the primary. He has put out word that he will be running for a state office down in, and he's around the Springfield area. So in 2 years, we're going to see Jacob Turner run for office, and I think that's somebody that the organization can get behind. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to say, vote for this guy, but he is going to have a voice with me anyway, and maybe Patrick will have him, bring him on at some point to discuss things, because I think Jacob would be a fine state rep. I think he's good on his policies. He understands where government goes wrong. He understands the role of government. So it would be very interesting to see Jacob Turner run for state rep. So hopefully, I'm going to try to have him on soon. And we'll just talk Missouri politics, but maybe talk about his decision to run for state rep here in a couple years. I think you'll like what you hear from Jacob. He's pretty chill guy. But he's good, and I think I've interviewed him like 3 times, and I really like Jacob. Now, I will say this. Jacob decided to run in the Republican Party last time just because he understands in this state and most elections that running as a Libertarian is going to give you a very low shot. So he ran as a Republican. He's not a Republican. You just talk to him and know that he's not a rhino. He is liberal on some of his policies, but fiscally very, very conservative. Doesn't like taxation. Doesn't like a lot of those things. So I think Jacob could be another ally for us. But, folks, here's the thing. We got work to do this coming this next legislative session. We have got our work cut out for us, because Dean Plocker more than likely is going to be Speaker of the House. And Dean is, he just does things out of spite. He's he holds grudges forever. And he's just an all around just a rhinoceros, okay? I just add, let's give him the full name, Rhinoceros, because he's got one big horn that he likes to swing around and demolish things, freedom, liberty. He votes where the money's at, not the will of the people. So we've got our work cut out for us with the old Plocker the Blocker. Unfortunately, but hey, the fight is, even if Plocker wouldn't have gotten reelected, it's not like we just go, well, Plocker didn't get reelected, so we're done. No, this is an ongoing battle to make Missouri the freest state in the nation. This isn't this isn't something you accomplish in 2 years and you're like, all right, we're done. Brush your hands off and take a shower and go like, all right, we're done. Cool. Now we can just go out and chill out and relax and do whatever we want. That's not the way it's going to work out. It's just, if you don't have a Dean Plocker in office, it could make things a lot easier. Now, John Grady says, I think he might be facing racketeering charges related to Amendment 3. Now, John, are you talking about Plocker the Blocker? I have not heard that. It'd be freaking hilarious if it was true. I hadn't seen that yet. Dean Plocker and Rudy Veit, in my opinion, should be, or at least Dean Plocker should be censured. He should lose the Speaker of the House nomination that he got last year because of what he and Rudy Veit did to Susie Pollock's bill, where they colluded on the floor of the House, lied, and ruined a bill. Plocker went around, told people to take their names as far as sponsors off the bill. 16 of them did. But Plocker should be in big trouble for what he did on the House floor, because technically he broke the rules. But there's a lot of Republicans acting like they're scared of him. I don't know how we're going to fix this problem, but it's something that we've got to fight hard for. I say that, and I'm talking to all the folks out there in Radio Land especially, and even on the podcast side. We need your help. We need more volunteers. We need phone calls. We need emails. And we really need more people to show up. When we decide to go to Jefferson City, we need more people showing up and walking the halls and talking to representatives and senators alike. The pressure needs to be put on these people. And we need more volunteers. This is not an easy task at times, and sometimes it's a little, I don't want to say overwhelming, but sometimes it can feel a little defeated. But we've done so many good, or I should say we, because I haven't been a part of it that long. I've been a part of some good defeats of bad legislation. And we've seen SEPA, again, prime example of some great wins. But the more people show up to Jeff City on any given day and walk the halls and talk to the legislators, they remember. That actually gets around. They called us the Gang of 12, folks. They remembered us. Months later, they remembered us. That's a huge thing, okay? That's huge. That you have that kind of credibility, or that you made a good, and we didn't make a bad impression. We went in there and cursed at them and threatened them and everything else. We went in there, we were civil. And the we executed well, and they remember that. But yeah, we definitely need more help. definitely need more help. And so that's that. I just kind of wanted to hit on that a little bit. I want to play something for you right now that speaking of COVID, I don't remember. I'm just going to play you part of this interview that Tom Woods did with Dr. Peter McCullough. Peter McCullough was one of the few doctors out challenging the whole COVID thing. He did U.S. Senate hearings. He did Texas Senate hearings. He used the facts from the CDC website, but now Dr. McCullough has had his board certifications yanked from him. Okay? So, not cool. But he's part of a new organization now. So I'm going to play this interview. I'm going to play so much of it. He's going to give some story here. Listen in. Because this might be something, and I'll put a link to the website that he's going to talk about. I'll have it in the description of the video. But take a listen to this. It's going to be about 20 minutes. Take a listen to this. Listen to what Peter McCullough went through and why he's going to shift what he's doing with some other doctors and pharmacies and other things. And it's something that I think we can all get behind because it's an alternative to the normal medical practices that we have here in the States now. So I'm in about, this is episode 2234 of the Tom Woods Show, if you want to listen to the whole thing. But I want to play a little bit of this about, he's talking about what he's gone through. And again, Dr. Peter McCullough, his credentials on cardiology and even kidney disease and stuff like that, he's highly ranked. One of the most published doctors ever. And this is what they did to him. So again, I'm going to play this. Just take a listen. And if you haven't heard some of this information, prepare to have your mind blown.
Of 2021, the board said, well, we're starting a special COVID misinformation initiative. And they didn't say what misinformation was. They didn't say what we should do as certificate holders of ABIM, like what should we do? They didn't offer any learning modules, any talking points or guidelines. And then what they did in my case is they went backwards in time. They came out in September of 2021 and said this. They went back to March of 2021 and said, you made statements in the Texas Senate, and we think this is misinformation. And so because of this, and then other statements I've made, they issued me a letter in May of 2022 and said, we are going to put you under professional review, professional disciplinary review by a credentials and certification committee. And you must respond to these charges that they've alleged. So I did a detailed response document, about 20 pages, citing all the evidence that I used. And I was answering questions on the fly under oath in the Senate, everything I could possibly do to give my best estimates to Texas at the time in 2021 and what's going on. It was a broad ranging testimony. I, for every single statement, backed it up. And as Americans have learned to appreciate from me, when I go on TV, I'm a frequent contributor on almost all the major TV stations. They see me every week. I'm always citing the literature. Usually first author and year, I can locate the journal. I know the data inside out, backwards and forwards. And so I did that. Now the American Board of Internal Medicine has come back on October 19th and said that a committee meeting was held, and I wasn't allowed to attend it or listen to a transcript or what have you. A committee meeting was held, and the committee has recommended that I be stripped of my internal medicine and cardiology boards. And now they've given me to November 17th to appeal. And what they've done is they've produced new evidence that I said a risk estimate was negligible. Well, they think a risk estimate based on another source within the CDC is not negligible. And so they've basically now brought forward evidence after the fact as using this as some type of dispute by which they can strip me of my basically 6 years of my life. So I have submitted as of yesterday a request to dismiss this matter. One, on procedural grounds that it's ex post facto. They created a policy, they went back in time. And then number two, They didn't follow any usual rules of evidence. They didn't lay out what they thought was going on and had me respond to that. They, after the fact, now have cited CDC evidence. Then I've also pointed out substantive grounds is they use proportions of deaths in certain categories as a risk estimate, as opposed to the real standard case fatality rate ratio. So I just simply pulled the case fatality rate ratios from the CDC and say, well, these are the risk estimates that I was relying on. So I'm basically stuck. They haven't responded to me. Now I have to appeal, get attorneys and get witnesses, request a meeting. I'm going to request one in person. This is an enormous consumption of my professional time, all for something that I think is intentional. It's intentional professional reprisal for my public participation as a U.S. Senate witness on 2 occasions, Texas Senate, as well as Pennsylvania, South Carolina Senate witnesses. I think they're hitting me for my public service.
For those of us who are not in the health world, can you just explain what this would mean for you if this were to stick? Does this mean you can't practice medicine?
This means that I can no longer contract with insurances. I can't bill insurances for standard medical services, and that I can't have hospital privileges. It does get reported, I believe, to the National Practitioner Data Bank. I think it's forever a mark. It's going to change the arc of my career.
So when they say that you claimed that something was negligible, are we talking about COVID deaths of people under 50?
Yeah, we're talking about COVID deaths at certain age ranges. And I think this is the one substantive dispute that people can understand. And, you know, when this all came about, Senator Ron Johnson reached out to Richard Barron at the American Board of Internal Medicine and said, listen, if you have a dispute on what's been said, then why don't we come out and discuss it? Why don't we actually just come out and discuss what the potential disagreement could be? And then we can go from there. And it's this very dispute, if you will, or disagreement on interpretive epidemiology for which we should discuss things. We should openly discuss things and then, you know, come up with some type of understanding. So yes, what the board says is the board has said this. The committee focused particularly on your statements asserting the mortality risk of COVID-19 is negligible for people who are under age 50 or 60. And there's no medical reason for that population to receive COVID-19 vaccines. The committee found those statements not factual or grounded. Indeed, according to the CDC, the board cites that those under 50 represented 8% of all deaths in that age group, and that from 50 to 64, it represented 12% of deaths from all the age group. And, you know, the percent of deaths that fall in an age group is not the same as risk. The CDC, and I just picked this directly from the CDC website, the CDC lists as risk the case fatality ratio. And the case fatality ratio directly from the CDC website, ages 50 to 64, is 0.25%. For age 18 to 49, it's 0.04%. And from less than age 18, it's 0.0009%. So when this came out, you know, Laura Ingraham was out this week with a monologue, and she just read off these statistics, actually from a recent paper from John Ioannidis at Stanford, looking at global statistics. They found the same thing. The risk of death from COVID, when someone actually has a case of COVID, according to the CDC, under age 65, is less than 1%. And what I explained to the board is that's what I interpret as being negligible. Once you get below 1%, people can't perceive anything, you know, less than 1%. It's just less than 1%. So that's the dispute. So the question is, on that substantive matter, is my entire career going to hang on the ABIM interpretation in terms of percents of deaths in age group, or on the CDC estimate of case fatality ratio? You know, I think the average person listening to this cannot believe that the American Board of Internal Medicine is doing this to one of its members. I'm one of the most published people in my field in the world in history. I'm one of the most published people in COVID-19 itself. I have 60 peer-reviewed publications and listings in the National Library of Medicine. People can't believe this is going on.
Well, and also I think your record as a physician speaks for itself, apart from your research.
I have a clinical track record now. I'm in my 4th decade. of delivering high quality care, of publishing. I have over 660 citations overall in the National Library of Medicine on the interface between heart and kidney disease. I'm one of the most cited cardiologists in the world. But this American Board of Internal Medicine action is part of a bigger picture. And in my book, Courage to Face COVID-19, Preventing Hospitalizations and Deaths While Battling the Biopharmaceutical Complex, written by bestselling author John Leake, there's a chapter called The Stripping. And the stripping is describing everything that's been happened to me. I've been very early on, before the vaccine safety data came out, I was stripped of my job, my academic job at a major health system here in Dallas, for no stated reason. I was stripped of 2 professorships with no faculty senate, no courtesy call, no discussion of any particular incidents, again, for no reason. I've been stripped of every committee position that I've had. Today, I just got stripped from the National Institutes of Health. And again, I just received a letter for no particular reason, although the NIH CC'd about 4 people on that email. And what I think is going on is I think there is a government intelligence operation underway, just as The Intercept points out in that piece. And it is by the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. I want to make sure I get the agency right. And they are doing this. They have separately, through other sources, America First Legal has uncovered that government agencies have been meeting with Twitter and Facebook to shape this false narrative. Anybody who comes out and raises other points regarding COVID-19 outside the government narrative is particularly being targeted. And I may be the most prominent doctor being targeted. If this is an attempt to silence me, it's not going to work, because obviously I'm having this interview and many more. My name is coming up on almost every broadcast platform. It's just making my message louder. I've been very clear and transparent with America. America has learned to trust what I tell them. I'm viewed as probably the most trustable doctor who comes online, the most responsible doctor, because I've also not only published on COVID and analyzed the data, but I treat patients. I see them firsthand, something that none of our government agency officials do at all. And so, the American support is on my side. And so I think what's going on is, I think this is an attempt to silence other doctors, even though they know it's going to backfire out with me. This is an attempt to silence other doctors. Other doctors are going to look at this and say, wait a minute, I could lose my 6 years of my life, my residency, my fellowship, and my boards if I speak out against COVID. I'm not going to risk it. Look what happened to Dr. McCullough. I think that's what this is about.
I don't doubt that one bit. Let's bring your colleague John Leake into the conversation, because he is with us now. John, thanks for being able to be here, and welcome to the discussion.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be with you again.
So we've just talked about what's been happening to Dr. McCullough, the board certification issue. The sense we have that this is not a targeting of one particular individual, but rather it's meant to have a chilling effect on other people who might dare to dissent from the various orthodoxies. Now, this is all very disturbing, and we're going to talk at the end about ways we can help Dr. McCullough, certainly financially and other ways. But I want to talk about an initiative now that Dr. McCullough, that you're involved in as Chief Scientific Officer, and that is this brand new company, the Wellness Company, which people can visit. The website is TWC, that's for the Wellness Company, .health. And it looks to me like the thing that we've all been waiting for, but actually kind of secretly been wondering whether it would be legal or not. Can you describe it?
People have been clamoring for this. This is an example of how this government silencing force, this police force, this disinformation police, and the false government narrative, this is an example of it backfiring. E-commerce juggernaut Foster Colson out of Canada has formed the Wellness Company, and it's up and running now the last few weeks. And this is a national platform for Americans, headquartered in Florida, and it provides verticals. There's a vertical for health information and media, another vertical for provision of healthcare with telemedicine providers, and probably in the future, face-to-face visits, a vertical for pharmacies, interlinking independent community pharmacies who will fill prescriptions and never block prescriptions. Then a last vertical for nutraceuticals and supplements and other kind of wellness products. And it's up and running, and I'm the chief scientific officer. It's led by 4 other doctors in my board configuration, and then, a whole variety of other individuals, e-commerce and marketing individuals, operational. It's a real company. It's got real patients. If people go to www.twc.health, they go on. The monthly membership fee is only $9.99. And then to get access to a doctor is a very modest fee. It's 24/7. It's a revolutionary approach. And patients are frustrated with their doctors. They can't get access. Things have become incredibly expensive. Deductibles have become expensive. This is a system that will be a cash-based system. People can always submit their receipts to their insurance if they've got very good reimbursement. But most of this is so modest, it's going to be less than what people pay in office copays and deductibles right now, that the wellness company is a breakthrough concept. No doubt about it. We're not going to be held captive. They will never take a dollar from big pharma. They're not going to basically become captured with the corporate pharmacy structure out there, CVS and Walgreens, which they were guilty of denying people legal prescriptions of hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, budesonide, colchicine. People with COVID suffered and then were hospitalized. America is so angry over COVID-19, they are coming to wellness company in droves.
Is there any risk, though, that because, maybe these doctors...
All right, we'll stop it there. So if you look on the site here, twc.health, if you're watching the live stream now, if you watch it later, they got a great website. You heard $9.99 a month. And then if you go to virtual care and you look, it says get access to a trusted medical provider for basic primary care and acute diagnoses for $59 for 2 TWC members, $69 for non-members. Where the heck are you, if you don't have insurance and you go to the doctor, how much are you going to pay? They have a marketplace. They have a Vitality series of what they call nutraceuticals that you can order. I mean, they got vitamins. They've got all kinds of stuff. And then they've got a signature series, so that's, targeted for bone strength, insulin, cardiovascular and muscle, energy and cell health, digestion, sleep, immune system, inhibits spike viral effects, blood vessel blockages, and more. They've got all kinds of great stuff on this site, and I just wanted everybody to see it and to know about it, because I think that this is, because of COVID, this is where the market could move to. And that is a great, great thing. If we can move away from the normal medical industry and move to something like this, that, the insurance companies aren't involved, all these things, you're going to talk to doctors who are not beholden to big pharma. And they even have a thing on here. Let me pull it up so you can see it. There's a section called Freedom from Big Pharma, and they actually have a way to, it says, develop a de-prescribing roadmap. So maybe you're on some pharmaceuticals and you want to improve your health, but you don't want to take all the medication that the doctor's shoving down your throat. Then maybe they can work out a plan with you to get you off pharmaceuticals. Now, how good is that? This is the kind of thing that we need. Now, there have been movements pre-COVID, but especially during COVID and now after. We've seen doctors just move out of the insurance marketplace, go to a cash-based system. Some of them are, you pay a monthly, kind of like a subscription fee, but then when you go to the doctor's office, it doesn't cost you, for the most part, anything extra. Unless maybe there's some trauma care or something. Maybe sutures or... So that's something that I think is going to be very important moving forward, is that we have these doctors who are also fed up with the system and say, you know what, we're not doing this anymore. I don't want to be a part of this. And because they actually want to do care based on patient by patient individual care like, originally was supposed to happen, and get away from this public health, which is now how doctors are being trained. They're not being trained in individual care anymore. For the most part, it's the public health. COVID, prime example. You came in, you had some symptoms. If it wasn't COVID, they just like, it's not COVID, or it's not the flu, so I don't know. And you just go, it was a waste of your time and money. That's a prime example. But when you have government involved in healthcare and in insurance, this is what you're going to get. It's another example of how government getting involved in something, basically ruins the whole freaking thing. So this is something very, very vitally important that we look at, give credence to, and try to participate in if we can. And hospitals and normal doctors for trauma care only, and you take your health and wellness and make it your responsibility. Just like a lot of other things in life, your responsibility. Now, you get cut really bad, yeah, you're going to need stitches. You break a bone, you're going to need to see some, that's trauma care. Heart attack, stroke, things like that. Trauma care. You get a little snipple, you get a little cold, you don't go running to the doctor. Support your, give yourself the nutrients you need to support your cardiovascular system, your immune system, your skeletal system. All these things can be done a lot of times nutraceutically and not pharmaceutically, naturally, not synthetically. And I think that's just something that we're going to have to move to if we want society to be healthy again. More people are going to have to move to this and away from the system that has come into being and that will continue to erode and become worse. Where you have this, take this pill. Oh, now you're having this side effects. Now you got to take this pill to take care of the side effects. Oh, that one's got side effects too. Now you're on a third one. You see people who have had heart attacks or whatever. Maybe they have, what do they call it? Something heart failure. I can never remember the first word. But then they're on 10 pills after that. And some of it is simply because of side effects from other medication. Not exactly healthy. You're introducing things in your body that you don't need. Your body's like, what is this? And you just throw yourself off more and more and more as they keep prescribing things to fight side effects. That's not medicine. That's not health care. That seems like a money grab. That doesn't seem like you're taking care of an individual. It seems like you're padding your own pockets or the pockets of big pharmaceutical industry and government at the same time, because big pharma lobbies the government. So your money is not only going to pharmaceutical industries, it's also going to big government, who after that regulates markets more, eliminates the competition, tries to block you out from treating yourself naturally. They're trying to force you in like cattle into a chute, into the big pharma chute, and then keep you sick. It might keep you from dying, but you're never going to get healthy because the return on their investment is too high to get you healthy. See, that's basically kind of what you are. It's kind of what we are. We're just an investment for pharmaceuticals. They don't want to cure you. They just want to make you feel just maybe a little bit better, but also you have to keep taking their pills in order to keep you feeling maybe just a little bit better. Or you might feel awful in a different way. All right, folks, well, that's going to pretty much do it for this week. I didn't have a whole lot to talk about. I did want to talk about the election results, and I wanted to introduce you to twc.health. If you come back later, I will have the links for twc.health. Also, our friend John Grady and his product, slaphappybeverage.com. I'll make sure I post the link to his site as well, so you can order some Mellow Cello. All right? So, to those of you in KEYK land, MOLibertyRadio.us, or however else you get this, thanks so much for joining me, and we'll see you all next week on the Missouri Liberty Report. All right, guys. I know that was shorter than normal. I was gone a long time today, and I didn't have a lot. I wanted to talk about the election results, and I wanted to get into a little bit of what Dr. Peter McCullough has been, invested his time into now. I think, again, that this is something vitally important that we can look forward to more doctors if they moved this path and out of the medical industry as it is now. Yeah, and I see some of you are in the live chat talking about different things that you do naturally. And like Gary writes, it's colloidal silver, and Voodoo Queen brings up herbalism, things like that. But yeah, it just awesome stuff that you can do to try to keep yourself from having to go to the doctor. You know, you can't always avoid it, but a lot of times I think you can. So anyway, folks, that's going to do it. I've got to go put a pork butt in the smoker. I got to get the rub on it, get the pork butt in the smoker, and let that bad boy cook overnight and have nice, juicy, tender pulled pork tomorrow. I am celebrating my birthday a week early and having some friends and family over. I'm going to make pulled pork. I'm going to smoke a whole chicken. I'm going to do french fries and macaroni and cheese and got lots of desserts. So it's going to be, yeah, buddy. But I've got to go get that pork butt prepared and get it in the smoker and start. I don't know how you all do it, but I'll tell you how I do it, and it works awesome. I like to use, well, my wife, I think, is going to make a rub, a sweet rub. And I like to cook it till it hits about 160. Then I pull it out. I wrap it in foil, but I place the foil on my counter. I pour some apple juice on that bad boy. I wrap it up, stick it back in the smoker, and let that bad boy cook till it's 200 degrees, and then it just falls apart in your hand. And thanks for the early happy birthdays. Appreciate that. Turning the big 5-0. So I'm waiting for this hair on top of my head at any point. And my daughter's like, "Oh, I can't wait till your hair's like silver because your haircut's going to look great." I said, "I hope I wake up one day and it's just silver like that. Not even a slow progression. Just go to silver, gray right away, and I'll be happy. I don't want that slow cooking thing." Happy early womb liberation day. I like that, John Grady. So yeah, when you come back later, I literally got up here like 5 minutes before the live stream started and didn't get time to put in a full description, so I will go back. I will put the twc.health website up in the description and also a link to John Grady's great, pull up the bottle here, Mellocello. There it is. This is the big bottle, the 500 milliliter bottle. But I will put a link to his site so those of you that are those of you that are interested can buy it. If you're not interested, you can't buy it. No, those of you that are interested can get yourself some Mellocello and invigorate your taste buds and things of that nature. So anyway, folks, have a great evening. I appreciate you as always, and I'll be back here next week for another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. And thanks to John Grady, Gary Ride, Voodoo Queen, Mad Mom Anon, Casey Rich, Voodoo Queen. I think I said Ganai already. If I didn't, Ganai. I knew Patrick probably wouldn't be in the live stream tonight because I think he had company or something. BH was in here. So good to see you all. But again, I'll see you next week. Same time, same place for the Missouri Liberty Report. Take care, everybody.